Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's all right. Okay. Everything seems normal. That's okay. That's all right. Got a little change. Got a screen there. So I'm using that screen to display some information about stuff I want to check. And of course, the SDR here. And I'll be checking the email through the tablet. So this guy, I think, is ready for a new show. So no show on Wednesday was a really complicated week. Let's call it like that this week. Complicated week. All sorts of little things happening at the same time. So I took a little bit of time to myself because there's a lot of stuff being happening here, including some there were some things to do inside the house. A little complicated week. So hello everybody, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave radio stream. We are live twice a week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's Thursday, 0 hours UTC for a big chunk of the world. And we are also live on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time. And we just talk about radio, shortwave radio, and any kind of radio in general. Hope everybody is going to have a lot of fun today, once again, as we talk about radio and we have fun just listening to stuff, answering questions. Got quite a few questions about radios that I have, so I thought that I would answer them live, since I think that is the best way to do so, so that everybody knows. And if you ever want to buy one of the radios, well, you'll know what is what, and basically you'll have some answers on some of the radios that I own, at least. You can, of course, join us. So my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This is northeast part of North America, and you can, of course, join us on a chat room, beautiful little chat room with wonderful people that are really cool, really nice. They're great people that are here just to have fun and help each other. It's really, really a cool place to be. There's a Facebook group also. When the party's over here, it continues on the Facebook group. And there's the email where you can actually also send us a little hello if you're not in the chat. officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. And I want to welcome Elizabeth in Regina, Saskatchewan, saying hello, everybody. And she's happy to be part of the show tonight. She says that her Kenwood R-5000 has been acting up, and she has a question about what could be the problem. So according to a friend of hers, the radio sometimes displays, and that's a common problem, by the way, Elizabeth, when it starts doing that, displays a series of dots in the display. So when that starts, you'll have to have the radio checked out. It's a very common problem of the Kenwood R-5000. After years of use, it will display dots because they actually put a wax on the circuit board that over the years mixes with the air, the humidity in the air, and creates some kind of a paste that corrodes some of the circuits. So she says that leaving the radio on for about 10 to 15 minutes, the radio comes back to life. So that's exactly what I had on my Kenwood R-5000. It started with, after a couple of minutes would come back to life normal. And then I had to leave it on all the time. But don't wait. I'm not sure who could take care of your radio though, and maybe in Regina you have some repair guy that maybe wants to take a look at it. In most cases, just removing the paste, that kind of wax from the circuit board often is just enough, and it works great after. But it also, it'll take a look at maybe some parts that are corroding. So hope that you can get that fixed, or else we'll see what where you can send it, maybe, or I'll be checking that out. I don't know if anybody will have a. So here in Canada, I don't know where could it be sent to be repaired. In many cases, so keep us posted and updated on the situation. We have Richard Lemke. Hello there, Richard. And he says that he's in St. Albert, Alberta, Canada. Says, good day, 20 Celsius, sunny, some wind. And he's got the second dose of vaccine yesterday. Woohoo! That's cool. Euro 2020 on TV. And he says, Johnny Dollar yesterday on Texas Shortwave. So cool. Welcome aboard, Richard. Always nice to have you here through email. And always nice to have friendly people all around the world checking in. Official shortwave radio at gmail.com is the way to send me a little something by email if you want to say hello. And I want to thank everybody in advance for being here in different ways, and hope that you will enjoy the show today, as usual. I've been doing a little bit of listening throughout the week, mostly outdoors. I haven't had, with the week that I haven't had the time to go anywhere for the expedition, which I wanted. Actually, Thursday was when I wanted to do it, but something came up and finally didn't have time. But I'm going to try to go back. My next the expedition will be back to Perry Island. I haven't been there since last year, and I like my Perry Island is like my little spot that I have to go to at least once a year. I don't know. It's one of those things that just is that you want to go there from time to time. So I'm going to bring out the radios, and I know a lot of you have been asking me to test the radios on telescopic, that you kind of enjoy that a lot. And somebody mentioned, we talk about how it's easy to use or talk about something or do something that, we don't think about too much. And then somebody comes up with a comment and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. And the comment I had this week was somebody saying, don't forget to test a lot of these radios only on telescopic, because remember that a lot of us, it's the only way we have of listening to the shortwave bands. We don't have a magnetic loop outside. We don't have. So by using just a telescopic, you already have a good, you can compare the radios and have a good idea of how they compare in a standard situation where you don't have any, wire antenna or anything. And it's like, yeah, it's true. It's something that definitely has to be done. So, and I've been having some really nice performance out of just a telescopic. When I went to Visitation Island, I was getting stuff, and it was like, wow, you almost don't need to have a wire or an external antenna. It's already pretty good just with the telescopic. And these radios, portable radios, are designed to be mostly used with the telescopic. They're not, they're designed for that. It's not like a desktop receiver or a tabletop receiver where they are meant to be plugged on, big antennas and have antennas outdoor and stuff. It's really different with a portable. They are kind of, designed to have maximum sensitivity. So just the telescopic just gets a lot of stuff already. So there will be more videos of just telescopic receivers. That's for sure. I think that's going to be something to check out this week. And of course, more radio videos coming up. I'll hopefully have more time for that, and it's going to be kind of interesting to see this. So it's always really kind of nice to have those things happening, and to test out the radios and how the comments of everybody, what they think, and how they like to, the radios and stuff. And some like to see certain radios more than others. And, it was like when I did a lot of videos on the SDR, one of the comments, the common comments that was there often is, remember that the majority of your audience does not have an SDR. It's fun to have a videos with regular receivers also, not just SDRs, because remember, once again, a lot of the people don't have SDRs, and it's true. It's we're the big fans of SDRs, and it's not everybody. Absolutely, it's not everybody that has a software-defined radio. That's for sure. So we got to, I got to think of videos for every type of situation that matches what the majority of people have, and that matches also the variety of what we have as viewers of this channel. I mean, everybody's different. Some people have big gun receivers, tabletops. Some people have small little portables. Some people have software-defined receivers. So we got to have a little bit for everybody. So I try to, have a kind of a balance in all of that to make sure that everybody has a little something that they like to see. So welcome aboard, everybody. Michael Thompson, nice to have you on board from New Jersey, and to NLQ. Doing some ham radio on FT8 in the 40-meter band. Cool. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here from Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. We have Jay Waterston 69, nice to have you on board. Dennis, nice to have you here, WA9326SWL, from a hot and humid Southern Illinois. So nice to have you here, my friend, and hope that you enjoy this show today. And we have Charles Williams from San Diego. Nice to have you here. Jeff Williams from Southwest Cornwall. And he says hello to Elizabeth. Rob, Phoenix, Arizona. Nice to have you on board. 101 Fahrenheit. That's too hot for me. James Johnson, nice to have you on board and about to enjoy severe thunderstorms. Stay safe, my friend. Don Warner, nice to have you here from Southwest Ohio. Rufus, nice to have you on board from Laurentian Valley, Ontario. VE3055SWL. TVDXer, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Just outside of Montreal, not very far. Charlie, W8CFO, nice to have you here from Columbus, Ohio. Shortwave listener from a sunny Bolton. Nice to have you here. John Beckham, nice to have you on board from, oops, I lost my space here. That happens all the time. Nice to have you on board, my friend Dmitry. Nice to have you here. And he's all ready to chat, and nice to have you on board. Gang of Four, nice to have you here from New Hampshire. PLF Radio, bonjour et bienvenue depuis Lyon en France. J'espère que ça va bien. Keegan, XN80Xer, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Christian Marcoux, salut. Nice to have you on board from North Bay, Ontario. And I know I got a lot of people saying, hey, I missed the show. Vodka cranberry. Standard drink for today. Eyebrawler, nice to have you here from Arkansas. Comagazine 1976, nice to have you here from stormy West Michigan. William Helms, nice to have you on board from Florida. Stephen Wood, nice to have you on board from a cool Cape Cod 63. Richard Galifano, nice to have you on board from Albany, New York. Just received his MLE30 and ready to get going on setup. Thank you, Jill, for all your information. Sometimes there is so much and not enough time in a day. Yep, absolutely. And, that's, I think you're going to be pleased. Positioning the antenna is important. Like I said, it's very, very, very important to choose a good space. I have the best example here is my W6 LVP loop, which for me is pretty much the same performance as the MLE30. And on the W6 LVP loop, when it was in the front back balcony, it performed roughly the same as the MLE30. But now I put it in the back balcony, and it's actually not performing as well. It's really, really not as good. So it gives you an idea. I just changed it. It's in the same orientation, but it's just not in the same place. It's in the backyard instead of the front. And suddenly it doesn't perform as well. So that means, and that tells you that the antenna's positioning is very important. You're not happy? Take it and try different spots, try different orientations, and leave it where it seems to be the best. It's crazy how just a couple of feet away can actually make a huge difference sometimes. Graham, nice to have you on board from Milton, Ontario, VE3077 SWL. Bob Lewin, nice to have you here from New Jersey. John Beckham says Spain coming in well on the 16-meter band. Yeah, that's what I'm getting right now here. 17855 has some deep fades, but it's in general pretty good. So Radio Exterior de España or Radio Nacional de España, that is broadcast over it. It seems to be, I think it's some kind of sports, probably, which is usually what they do on the weekend with their football stuff. Angelo Fragolino, nice to have you on board. Angelo from Italy, nice to have you on board. M-Stacks, overlapping with Photoluke Hawaii today. He's running late. Can we see the cat, gang of four? Well, he's sleeping in the bedroom, so unfortunately, unless he comes over by himself, he's not going to be around for now. He spent most of the day outside, big chunk of the day outside, so now he probably is tired and just wants to sleep a little. James Johnson finally got the MLE30 antenna. Have to go get hardware for it and cable. So cool. M1MBZ, nice to have you here from west of England. Everybody saying hello to Elizabeth. And some people saying hello to Richard also. 45 unit, nice to have you on board, my friend. Thunder and temperatures in the 90s in Florida, which is the typical summer weather, I think, in Florida, pretty much. And like here, too. Bernie Dodge, nice to have you on board. KD1BD in San Diego. Appalachian Underground, nice to have you on board from Alabama. Got my new to me Grundig Satellite 800 today. Super excited to get into this behemoth. Nice big radio. Gonna enjoy that for sure. Terry Cook, nice to have you on board from Western Montana, KF7BQ. Kev Michael in Hawaii, nice to have you on board, 7244 in Japan in the morning. Dan Srebnik, nice to have you here. K2IE. Tom DXer from the Hudson Valley, New York, WPE2QED. Nice to have you here. We have Eric Cottrell. Bonjour, hi. Nice to have you on board. Rain this morning. Turned into a nice sunny day in Boston. Here, it's been nice pretty much all week, but cooler, which is welcome. Right now it's what, 20, it says it's 27 Celsius, which is upper 80s, mid 80s, which is nice. It's not too humid too. It's what, 19 outdoor humidity, 19%. We don't see that very often here. Usually it's super humid. So it's actually like very comfortable. I can tell you. Tim Lewis, nice to have you on board from your new QTH, upstate South Carolina. Human 721, why does my radio signal worsen when I plug a wire into it? Probably because you have too much noise around you. That wire needs to be further away from your house than your devices. Pretty sure that if it gets worse when you plug a wire, it's because it picks up more noise than it picks up signals. So you'll have to find a way to have that wire outdoors or have that wire in a different way, possibly. Roger Baird, nice to have you on board from New Mexico, and only 102 here today. Kev Michael, my Sony ICF 2003 has crackles. Why is that? And on SSB, the frequencies are off. That's interesting. Maybe something in the that's maybe some connectors. You know what happens to a lot of older radios? It happened many times that I noticed that a lot of older radios have these little connectors that are plugged on the circuit board with, multiple, like they can be real long with multiple connections to them. And often, sometimes it's a ribbon cable that's coming out of it or stuff like that. I noticed that a lot of the older radios, one of the major problems that happens is these connectors have a lot of these connectors have a problem with their, making the good contact. So sometimes removing them and plugging them back a couple of times fixes some problems, and it could create all sorts of things. It could create anything from crackles, from weird reception, from no reception to reception or sporadic reception, frequencies being off. It could be all sorts of things like that. Maybe it's time for a little cleanup, a little opening of the radio, and kind of looking around and a little cleanup and looking at the contacts, making sure they're correct. It happens more often than we think, but mostly on older radios that often use a lot of these little ribbon cables in the past. So maybe that could be one of the things. Hopefully, it's not something that's too problematic. Sometimes the switches also can create all sorts of weird things. René Charbonnier from Radio Classic Sunday. Nice to have you here from the Netherlands, my friend. Canadian radio TV guy. Nice to have you on board from Sylvan Lake, Alberta. Out at the lake for the weekend, an hour and 40 minutes away from home. Listen to some shortwave on the beach this morning. What a difference in propagation out here. Cool. Gang of Four, do I need to be outside to use a shortwave radio? You don't need to necessarily be outside. Of course, it will help if you get tons of signals outside. That's because in your home you have a lot of interference. But you can put a wire outside, but bring it in with a shielded cable to the radio in your home, so you can actually listen in the home. William Helms, with silicone sealer and solder reflow solve the Kenwood. No, the Kenwood R-5000 doesn't use an LCD. It uses a it's the old style LED style. Actually, it's a fluorescent. I think the Kenwood R-5000 display is a fluorescent display kind of display. It's not the display that's the problem. When the dots happen on the Kenwood R-5000, what happens is that dots will show up instead of the frequency, and your audio drops out because the phase lock loop circuit is unable to lock. It loses its reference and it can't lock anymore. And that has to do with that paste. It's a very, very common. The Kenwood TS450 transceiver, which shares the same design, has that problem too over years of use. And what happens is the wax on the circuit board actually makes an acidic goo over years and years. And it starts creating problems on the circuit board. And what happens is that wax, when those problems start, well, one of the first problems you see is the phase lock loop loses its lock. Because it loses its lock, it doesn't know anymore what frequency you're tuned to. So the audio stops and everything stops because the phase lock loop isn't working well anymore. So it's really, really a problem on the circuit board. And it's the most, I think it's the most common problem of the Kenwood R-5000 and the Kenwood TS450 transceiver over years of use. Mine took about, I'd say, mine took about 17 or 18 years before it started doing it. I got mine in 1990. And it actually happened about 17, I'd say about 17 years later, it started doing that problem. In my case, what I did when it started doing it a lot, I just kept the radio on all the time. I would just put the volume at 0. So Kev is on the bus listening to the program. Wow, cool. Urban Exploration Mexico. Nice to have you on board from Mexico City. I was actually listening. I heard Radio Educación from Mexico yesterday evening with a fair signal, 6185. I hadn't heard it for a while. John Beckham, just a note here, the Prunus J401 is not a very sensitive shortwave receiver, but it makes for a really nice MP3 player. Yeah, you know, I have a hard time picking up anything on this thing, but the audio quality is surprising. It's like the Tibio V115. It's almost like the same radio. I think it's the same radio inside, pretty much. The audio for such a small package is quite amazing. So indeed, for a little portable MP3 player, it's actually not bad. But for shortwave, it's the crappiest thing in the world. That I can tell you. Mobile Armored Strike Command from Boulder Hill received a Conicom GP5 SSB. So have fun with that. It is the ETM scan is nice. You know, the only thing that drives you nuts on the Conicom GP5 is the fact that the tuning. If you want to tune a specific frequency, it is crazy tough to, you know, it's going to drive you nuts. But if you use the ETM scan, or if you use the memories in a specific way to simplify your tuning around, it can help. But the only thing that that was missing off the Conicom GP5, and that will be actually part of the GP7 SSB coming up, is a keypad. That would have made such a huge difference on that radio. But it's sensitive and it works quite well on the Conicom GP5. Okay. What else do we have? Canadian Radio TV guy says big difference in shortwave reception when you move 1 hour and 4 minutes away from home, and especially being on the beach. Oh yeah, when you get far from, you know, buildings and from civilization in general, man, it's a world of difference. James Johnson from East Army, Florida. WA4493 SWL. George, nice to have you on board from Greece. Nice to have, we don't have Greece very often here. I don't think it's the first time, but it's, we don't have a lot of Greek people coming here. So welcome aboard. Like I said, I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. What else do we have? Let me just. So John Beckham says it's good to be back. Missed a couple of your shows. Nice to have you back. Canadian Radio TV guy says 1340 Radio New Zealand much stronger there than home. So yeah, I would imagine receiving Radio New Zealand in a place like Perry Island, which I would not because it's like midnight. But I can imagine how much better it must be to when the noise floor is down. Everything's better. It's just crazy. You know, you get a kick out of doing that, and then you go back home and get back into the limits of your reception, and you're kind of, well, okay, so yeah, I was receiving all of these signals there, and I'm not receiving a lot of them here. That's kind of sad now. Yeah. Urban Exploration Mexico, very happy I could finally reconnect my ground to Copper Rod. Listening to CB guys on 27555 USB. Cool. Laugh a lot. Nice to have you on board from North Carolina. DF Sahari. Nice to have you on board. 7X2DF. Nice to have you here. M Stacks is in Berkeley, California. What else do we have? Kevin, nice to have you on board from New Jersey, WS2H. Hope the bands are good tonight as last night. Very fun listening yesterday. Let's cross our fingers. I'm going to do a lot of listening tonight for sure here too. Caesar, nice to have you on board. All the AM in US and Canada is AM HD. This AM HD is it is better than normal AM. Thank you. No, there aren't a lot of AM HD radio signals out there. There's a few of them, but the majority of what you hear on the AM band is regular standard analog AM. Here, with my HD radio that I have, I hear two signals that are HD right now on the AM band. Actually, I haven't done an AM, a medium wave scan for a while, so maybe some new ones popped up. I don't know. 810 kilohertz and 1080 kilohertz. For some reason, 1210 doesn't lock anymore, which I'm starting to wonder if they haven't just abandoned their HD signal. So not a lot of them. Yes, it's improved. If you do tune a AM HD radio signal, oh, it's day and night. The audio quality is amazingly good on AM HD. When I get a lock on, for example, on 1080 WTIC, I believe it is, the radio goes from listening to a station in the US with the static that goes with it to listening to a FM, perfect FM quality signal. It's amazing. No crackles, pops, or noise around it. Very surprising. Usually what happens with these, you get a lock for about, a minute or two before the signal starts going down again, because, there's the fading at night on the US stations. But it's a lot of fun to play around with that. Here in Montreal, the AM radio station that is in HD format is CJAD, not on AM, and that's why also a lot of the stations in the US are actually not HD on AM, is because they own FM outlets very often. So they'll put their HD signal on an FM station. So here in Montreal, CJAD 800 is HD on FM. They actually have their FM signal on 107.3, which is their sister station on FM in French. So they add HD2, which has the CJAD programming. Yang of 4 says 60 degrees sunny and dry in northern New Hampshire. Brad in Amarillo, nice to have you on board. WA5192SWL and 5LUL on board. Scott, KC2CAD. Nice to have you on board from North Boston, New York. Conveniently located 35 miles from Niagara Falls. Cool. Cool. I'd like to go back there. I've been to the Canadian side of the Niagara Falls in 2008, I believe. I went to Toronto to see with some friends to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers at the Air Canada Centre back in 2008. And when we were in Toronto, we looked at each other and we were like, okay, so how about we go to Niagara Falls? We're not that far away. Let's go there. And we spent almost a week in Ontario. So we spent a couple of days in Toronto, a couple of days in Niagara Falls. Had a blast, especially when you go there with some really good friends that you know each other for like years. I mean, yeah, it's always a blast. So I hope to go back at some point. M1MBZ 17855 sounds like Spanish soccer. Yeah, it's possible. Neil Rigby, nice to have you here from the UK. Dave Dufault, nice to have you here from Indy. Matthew Lawson, nice to have you on board. Thank you for answering my emails regarding SDR this week. Yep, no, my pleasure. And don't forget, guys, if you send me an email, don't expect a reply in 1 hour. If you'd see the number of emails in my inbox that gets there every day, I go to them as fast as I can, and it might take a day or two, but I eventually answer back. So don't worry. I had someone once said, well, you're that big gun YouTube guy, so you don't answer emails. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that I got a lot of the emails, and I need to I need to take the time to answer them back because I have so much that I do at the same time that that also is something that you try to take the time to do everything. And so let me just check out here. I'm looking at HF Underground 6926. Some pirate possibly at 1944 UT. So just before the show started, an hour ago, roughly. 6926. And there's something else on 6955, apparently also. Let's check that out. I don't know if I'm going to hear anything here, but we're going to check that out. Let's check out if I get any pirates. It's a little early here for anything pirates, but you never know. Yep, nothing here, nothing heard. So I don't think there's I don't hear anything, at least here. So 6955. Nope. Got a lot of noise though. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm crazy, but maybe something very weak in the noise. But man, crazy. What else do we have? Gang of Four saw your review of the Texan PL990X. I'm thinking of making the purchase. If you have enough money and want a bigger radio and a really good radio, you could try the Texan H501X also, which is, I think, superior to the 990X in a few ways, including the audio, even better audio, and stereo FM. But even the PL990X is an amazing radio. Really, really cool radio. Canadian Radio TV guy can get KNLS 9580 from Alaska. Pretty good here in the summer. Cool. I've heard KNLS in a few times when conditions are perfect. Here, the best time of the year for KNLS to actually make it is usually around spring or fall, more than summer or winter. I haven't heard it in a long time though. I've heard it's a really tough catch here because, I mean, KNLS out of Alaska is actually sending its signal out to the Far East, so into Asia. So it's like, sending away from me. So it makes it very difficult to hear. PLF Radio shares a link to decode the TDF time signal from France with the U20 Web SDR. Michael Langer, nice to have you on board. And Elmer sending me is ICOM 718 free. Cool. That is always fun to have free radios. And I mean, these ICOMs are great transceivers. And overjoyed with people's generosity. So this is pretty cool. I think it's fun when somebody gives you something that they don't use. I've had quite a few of you guys send me radios, which is really cool. So really nice. James Johnson, been very busy. I've had contacts as far west as Hawaii and east as Jamaica, north as Ontario, and Barbados to the south. Tons of fun. Cool. Urban Exploration Mexico says, yep, soccer narrative live from Radio Exterior de España. M1MBZ, start of the European football this week. Yes, sometimes, James Johnson, that's what happened. Too much radio equals not enough sleep. So nice to have you here. PLF Radio says Radio Exterior España rebroadcasting the Euro 2020 football or soccer. So cool. Keegan says an XN80X on Sunday the 6th had FMDX stations from Mexico, Florida, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona in the morning, Massachusetts, Maryland, New York, and Ontario in the evening. Wow. That was a good day for you. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Tarek, nice to have you on board from Cairo, Egypt. Pretty cool. James Johnson says so much lightning crashes. Yeah, when there's a lot of thunderstorms, it happens that it makes it very difficult to listen to. Hector Vasquez, nice to have you on board from sunny Los Angeles, California. 95 Fahrenheit. Tarek is having Sportic E in Cairo. And, well, got Turkish, Greek, and Italian stations on FM yesterday. Cool. Cool. What else do we have? Mike Jam, nice to have you here from New Hampshire. And we have PLF Radio says, Gilles, in one of your recent videos, you said we can suggest some ideas of videos for you. Can I do it here on the chat? I may send several messages if it's okay for you. The best place would be either on a comment on one of my videos, or send me that on official shortwave radio at gmail.com as an email. Because if you post them here, I might not remember them. So if you can, the best place would be to send it by email, official shortwave radio. But if you want to post them here, it's fine. You can post them here also. Maybe some people give others ideas. What else? Scott Belcher, nice to have you here from Kentucky. Nice to have you on board. I'm going to try to catch up here. Marcelo, nice to have you on board. Hospital room. Oh, hope things are not too bad and that you're getting better, my friend. Michael Langer says, Joel, in your opinion, Elmer's sending me an ICOM 718. Feel free to tell me about mics or antenna or tuner. I'm sure there's a lot of people that could actually are much better in that side of things, where they can actually maybe give you an idea of what would be the best microphones and the best setup for that. I don't know a lot about the 718, so I don't know if it has antenna tuner integrated in it or not, or so maybe somebody could comment on that if you want to, my friends. PA1 SBM, Alex, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. John Clay, nice to have you on board from the UK. We have Dave Defoe says, we missed you Wednesday, Joe. I had to drink vodka cranberry by myself. I hope you didn't drink too much. KJ Walder, nice to have you on board. And says, ordered a second-hand CO on D808, which is kind of the XH Data D808. Expected to arrive on Monday. I'm told that this is the same radio as the XH Data. Yeah, they made a few differences, like the color of the display, stuff like that. But it is an XH Data D808 pretty much. John Beckham, I love my Texan H501X. Amazing radio. If you like big radios and you want to have a good one, it's a good one. It's really a good one to have, I can tell you that. Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from North Carolina, KM4WRQ. Brad and Amarillo says, got my PL330 Wednesday. No regrets. Slick little radio. That's an amazing little radio. Absolutely. For the price, it's a great, great radio. I'm amazed myself. I mean, even the audio quality, for such a small radio is actually not bad at all. So really, really, I think, for price versus performance, it's the winner of the best radios. Can tell you that. So Rufus says several AM stations from Ottawa are also HD on FM. Yeah, it seems to be a lot of if they they do a lot of that instead of having AM. And Stack, supposedly HD radios, if they do HD on AM, will work with digital only medium wave stations. Only a few of these yet. Actually, HD works with the standard HD there is right now. If you have an AM station that is has the HD signal in its analog transmission, you will lock on an HD HD signal and hear the HD audio coming out of that without them being fully digital. Now, one of the things that it will do is if they do become fully digital, that probably is going to be give you a better chance of actually listening in and DXing to these probably. Eric Cottrell, you got lucky, Joe. Scott Belcher, Tom Petty, my first concert ever. Only time in my life that I saw Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It was a great concert. It was really a great concert. David, nice to have you on board. David Fogel from muggy Chicago. Dave, KE6EX. Welcome aboard, Dave. Jim Young, nice to have you on board. W5JVY. And name is Jim. Nice to have you on board. Franco AC, nice to have you on board from the UK. Currently on 3905 Blues Music International, but can't identify the station. I'd be amazed if it's NBC New Ireland. Yeah, 3905 isn't one of those frequencies from shortwave, from what the shortwave service, something like that. Kev, how is the new? You mean mean the 990X compared to the old one? I mean, the H501X is great. I do find it slightly superior to the 990X, but both are great radios. I can tell you that. And of course, for people who don't want to spend too much money, that PL330 is great. Great. What else do we have? Kurama Nikolai, nice to have you on board, my friend. And I hope that you are well. Dave has WCB Africa from Madagascar, the world. That station, African Pathways Radio, 11965. TRX Radio, European Pirate on 3905. Huh, okay. Kev Michael heard KNLS Anchor Point, Alaska many times on 15 meters back in the day. Cool, PLF Radio will be welcome. You know, even I sometimes don't. I get to a point where I'm like, yeah, what should I do in videos that would interest everybody? So when people have comments or have videos that they want me to do, it's always welcome to have ideas in advance that I can check for, because it's not always you wake up in the morning sometimes and you're like, apparently 6955 is WLR Wasteland Radio. So if you hear 6955, guys in the US, we have Jim Gordon. Nice to have you on board from Scotland, watching you while having a pint of Guinness. 73s. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Scott Belcher, thank you, Joe. Yes, getting better this week still. Fixed me up with some sweet radios. Thank you. Cool. Charlie, WHCFO, new antenna tuner on the IC718. Had one for several years, sold it, and bought an IC7200. Okay. Vahan Yazarian, nice to have you on board, and thank you for the nice comments. Where are you located? Blind Picker, nice to have you on board. Rob in Connecticut, W0RAB. Randy, Riverside, California, nice to have you here. Violence is Life, listening from Chattanooga, nice to have you here. Caesar says, can the U.S. radio channel KDKA be received from the AM 1020 kilohertz band in Montreal? On 1020, I don't remember what I'm getting in Montreal, but it's, I get a lot of stuff. I get a lot of stuff on the different bands, but I don't remember which one I'm hearing on 1020. If it's KDK or what other station I'm hearing on 1020. I'll have to check it out and come back to you. Joe Simonis, nice to have you here, Joe. H501X has slots on the left bottom. Looks like a microphone, no record. What's up with that? It's for your phone. So when you actually pair your phone with Bluetooth on the radio, if your phone is in another room, for example, you are able to answer a call, and your text and receiver acts as the microphone. There is the microphone for the hands-free call that you're having through the radio, actually. So you'll have the audio in the speakers, and the microphone of the radio is sensitive enough to pick up your voice when you're talking. So it's a way to use it. The same thing happens with the Texan PL990X. It has a little pinhole on the upper right corner, and that also is where the microphone is. So you can actually make calls through the radio when you pair your smartphone through Bluetooth. So PA1 SBM, Alex, the 501 is not cheap, €600. Wow, okay, that's a lot of money there. I got it for, in total here, it came to 400 and 80 Canadian dollars, which would technically amount to something like probably, 375 euros or something like that. Have you checked it through a non-co website where I purchased it? Because 600 euros that's quite expensive. WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you on board. Just finished moving 2 acres in muggy, rural Virginia. John Beckham says, how do you pronounce Siwadon? I pronounce it as I see it, please. Since I only Siwadon R108, I am thinking about getting the D808 Siwadon as well. Thanks. I just say Siwadon I just go with the flow of what I see here. I have no idea if it's the proper pronunciation or not. Kenneth, nice to have you here from Denmark. Pretty cool. Local time at 10, it's 22:55, so 10:55 p.m. Welcome aboard, my friend. Okay, you Google the price, yeah. I think the best for the price would be to go to the Anonco, ANONCO website. That's probably where you're going to get it in more of a decently priced. But crazy, 600. I would not have paid 600 euros for that radio. That's for sure. Hey guys, if you want to listen or try to get a Morse code number station from Moscow, Russia, coming up in 3 minutes on 11144. 11144. 11144. CW, or if you don't have CW, you can play with the BFO if you have a BFO on the side of the radio. And for those that don't have a BFO, they just tune around. Well, you can tune to 11143 upper sideband, and it should work. So 11144 in 3 minutes time should give us a Morse code number station coming out of Moscow, Russia. So I'm going to try that. All right, JDA Dakota, nice to have you on board. WA0113 is WL from Winsville, Missouri. Yeah, I have no idea if that pronunciation, John, is good, but it's the way I pronounce it. So what else do we have? Well, I won't get KDKA AM now. That's for sure. Not in the daytime. PLF radio on the XH Data D808. When I turn up or down the volume, I hear some grating. Does it happen with yours? You mean like some scratching in the audio? Usually, it means that there's a little bit of a corrosion or dust in the volume. It might happen on some of the radios over time, having a little bit of a scratchy. Usually the radios I got here, if the ones that I had for many years, especially when they've been left unused for a while, scratching in the volume is a very is a possible thing. What you could do is simply one of the ways that often it helps is to simply what you could do is remove the battery or not just turn it off. Actually, just turn it off and play with the volume, put it to the maximum, bring it down to 0, bring it up to and do that like maybe 10 20 times to have the volume work a little bit. And once you've done that, you're going to see that probably the scratching is either gone or really minimized. But it's not a problem of the XH data per se. It's a problem with most of these volume controls, unused or even used, but over time will often in certain environments, especially if it's dusty where you live, or have that scratching. So we're hearing, yeah. I'm hearing it. It's not very strong, but it's there. Let me put it in. There you go. So we hear the Morse code coming out of Moscow, Russia. It's not very strong, but it's here. 11144. 11144 CW or 11143 upper sideband. Spike Spikerson. Yes, you're late, but that's fine. At least you're here and you made it. M1MBZ, I'm using an MLA30 today. Hopefully I will take it out portable into a quiet location one of these days. Cool. Yeah, some scratching, but since day one. Oh, you got it since day one. That is weird. That is weird. It shouldn't be there since day one, normally. But because usually a scratching volume knob means that the potentiometer or the control has either it's dusty or some slight corrosion on it. I have maybe noticed I got it now a little bit, but let me turn it on, see if I do have a scratchy volume here. I have it. It's slightly scratchy right now. But you see what I told you, if I play around with it, so volume up, volume down, volume up, volume down. You put it all the way up and all the way down. Do that, maybe a dozen times. Usually when you turn it back on with the volume low, see, I don't hear the scratching anymore. Just using the volume control. But it's weird that you have it since day one. Maybe they had it in stock for a long time and before they sent you the radio. I don't know. Because, it is scratchy now, but I've been, I used it this week for some videos. And before this week, I think it had been there for at least a month and a half, if not 2 months, without me even using it. So play around with the volume like that. It shouldn't be. Scratchy volumes is something that happens very often. You can use contact cleaner, of course, for that also, but be careful what you choose. There are some contact cleaners that are really, really tough and too much for small radios, plastic radios like that. You got to be careful what you choose, actually. Device 9 can't hear it in Seattle. Keegan heard KDK Pittsburgh on 1020 at night here most of the time. I probably hear KDK, but I'm not sure. Jason VE9 JMC. I've got that CW S7 on my long wire. Cool. Franco AC 11143 loud and clear in the UK on USB. Dimitri 5950 kilohertz in Minnesota. Okay. Dion put so Dion. Ham radio is way more fun if you don't have a license. I don't get it. Radio is a lot of fun too. And we got a lot of hams here that don't even use or go on the air. It depends what you're searching for. Listening is a lot of fun. No numbers in San Diego. No trace of it on the SDR. Yeah, it's mostly probably more European. PA1SBM Alex says non-Europe shops is now less possible. Netherlands will have all parcels go through customs and import tax is silly high. And you have to pay the mail to do the tax handling as well. Oh man. Yeah, that's the crappy side of things. For sure. Yeah, radio off and just put just up and down the volume control. It usually isn't too bad. Like Jason says, and I said earlier also, scratchy, you can use contact cleaner. Just make sure that um, the contact cleaner isn't too harsh, because some of them are a little harsh. Hirofumi Yokoyama, nice to have you on board from Japan. Nice to have you here, my friend. PLF Radio's got Morse code, 11143 kilohertz upper sideband on the XH data. John Beckham is hearing it on the Ceodon R108, 11143. And Peter John Fetting, nice to have you on board from South Africa. ZR6PCF, nice to have you here, Peter. Pretty cool to have somebody from South Africa watching. Really cool. So it's, I don't know if it's still going on. Yep. 11144 CW or 11144 upper sideband. It's weak here, but it's there. We have the number stations from Moscow, Russia. Yeah, you guys in Europe should hear it well, because you guys are closer to Russia than we are here. And 11 megahertz, we still have a lot of daytime left here. So 11 megahertz might not be the best time for now, but cool to see that station is there at this time. So I'm going to pause a little bit here for the chat, and we are going to answer a few questions that I have received through email concerning some of the radios that I have. Let me go here. So the questions come from a guy called Nick that is in Massachusetts, and he actually has a couple of old radios. So his radio lineup consists of a Panasonic RF-B65. He's got another Panasonic RF-2800. And he also has a old Kenwood R-600 that he bought secondhand in the 80s. So, of course, his first question, which is a question I get asked quite a lot, is, would I have a better radio today than what I have now? You already, in these radios that you just mentioned, they are actually quite capable receivers. If they work well, you should pretty much be good to receive whatever we get on modern day receivers today. Over time, what happens with radios is that they might get misaligned because electronics change over time. Sometimes some of these radios might have problems with capacitors that get kind of bloated or fat because they kind of have reactions going on inside, and that means you need to change them. So sometimes things like that can happen. But a good working, these radios in good working order in general should actually be, I would guess, and as pretty much as good, if not very close to what we have today. So that's the first thing that I would say. Because you're wondering if you want to buy something new, because you saw my videos, and one of the videos that actually you were looking at was the because you like big radios, because that's what you have basically right now. These older radios are bigger radios. You'd like to have a big radio, so you kind of got an attraction for the Texan H501X, and you were wondering, would that thing be better than my old radios? What will be better on the H501X definitely is that compared to the three radios you mentioned, there's going to be zero drift. You have older receivers, so in single sideband, what's going to happen is that you have some small drift on these radios. It's not crazy bad. I mean, I've used I've seen a B65. I've used an R28, the Panasonic RF 2800. I know how they perform, and it's not a drift. It's not a big drift, but it's there. So in single sideband, readjusting the BFO regularly because of you want to follow the signals. The Kenwood R-600 drifts a little because of its age, although it's much less than probably the portables. That would be gone with the Texan H501X. You would have drift-free SSB listening. And if that appeals to you already, that could be interesting. If you like big radios, it is a nice big radio. In terms of sensitivity, I don't think you will get something on the H501X that you would not get on those radios that you mentioned. I think they are probably close in sensitivity to that radio already. So what I would say, because you got 3 radios, so that means you kind of like radios. What I would say is if you have the means and it's like you're thinking about it and you find that has nice looks and seems to be a good radio, go for it. It would actually add a more modern receiver to your radio collection, basically. But if for you it's, I would buy it only if it really, really made a huge difference. Well, the differences are going to be in no drifting, because these radios don't drift today. Amazing sound quality, and the fact that you can actually use it as an audio player. So it can be used as a Bluetooth speaker if you want. The sound is so great that it's going to work fine. One of the markets where I think it appeals to people, and I'm telling them, maybe that's where you should go if you are interested in buying a Bluetooth speaker for audio, and if you're also enjoy shortwave, you've got both in one device. If you buy them separately, it's going to come up to roughly the price of the Texan receiver almost. So why not get that radio? You've got the Bluetooth speaker at the same time. So that, I think, is something you might want to think about. For the rest, if your decision is purely on, is it going to be that much better than what I have? The simple answer to that is no. You might not find that it's that much better, really. I don't, like I said, you receive probably whatever this thing receives. The real added bonus is in having no drift, and also precision of the frequency display, which is more precise as it goes to 10 hertz in precision. So it's more precise in tuning, and with the calibration, it's pretty good. So but simple answer, if you're thinking, if I buy that, I'm going to get stuff I don't get with my radios already, I think on that side, I can't see that this thing is going to get stuff you're not going to get on your radio. It's really with the added bonus of great audio, no drift, and more tuning precision, stuff like that. Before we continue with the questions, I'm going to go with the chat room to try not to be behind too much. So Neil Rigby says 11143 loud and clear in the UK. Shortwave listener 11143 loud and clear on this PL330 and MLA30. David Spears 11143 on XH data here in the UK. Going crazy. Mitch, nice to have you here from Arizona. Thomas Olson, nice to have you on board from Baltimore. Jason, V9 JMC, aging electrolytic capacitors can dry out. If it's an older receiver, I would recommend replacing all the electrolytic capacitors. Yeah, that often, especially on, like the Kenwood R-5000 would probably benefit from that. With time, that's what happens. Mike, WDX50, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Thankful for air conditioning right now. I was thankful last week for that, I can tell you that. Franco AC says, your videos outdoors just using the whip antenna are cool, Joe. Shows what you can achieve in the right setting. They are encouraging to new shortwave listeners. Yeah, and I'm going to do more of those because, let's face it, a new shortwave listener getting a new radio is going to get a portable with it and use a telescopic antenna most of the time with it to try to get signals. So we need to, showing everybody what we're going to get using just the basic radio with its antenna. It's probably a good idea. Absolutely. What else do we have? PLF Radio says F06A RTTY. Are you getting it there, PLF Radio? Just out of curiosity, I'm going to try it here. 16266 upper sideband. Oh yeah, I'm getting it. It's not very strong, but we hear it. 16266. That RTTY is also from Moscow, Russia. 16266 upper sideband. Really nice. Look at that. But it's not very strong, but it's there. Definitely there. John Beckham says recommends the K2 T1 compact antenna. Rolls up to with a 3.5 millimeter plug. Great when you don't have space for a long wire outside. Urban Exploration Mexico just posted the ground rod connection pictures in the Facebook group and how I tested it. Cool. Hey, MDK2, nice to have you here, Matt, in Denver, Colorado. So, yeah, pretty cool. They're having some nice numbers of people watching. Keegan, XN80Xer says, my dad, W9JEF, heard on 6MI on 50.010. Cool. Device 9, getting the Russian RTTY strong in Seattle. Can you decode that? I don't know if there's something that can decode it, actually. I've never, I would need to look into that. I don't know if there is something to decode that. So that's coming out of Russia, for sure. And in 2 minutes, we have 10544. 10544, which is another Morse code signal from Moscow, Russia. The another number station. So 10543 upper sideband for those that don't have CW. And that's coming up in roughly a minute from now. 10544 CW. So Jason V9 JMC says, yes, there are programs to decode RTTY. Yeah, well, but the thing is, Jason, here we're talking about the RTTY from that number station, because there's a lot of programs that decode RTTY. There's MMTTY, there's FLDG, there's multi-PSK. But for the specifics of that, because I know that there are a couple of, I think it's the XPA2 MFK signal that some people are using as a piece of software to decode the numbers that come out of there. Yeah, I'm hearing the CW. Yep. Not very strong, but it's here. 10544 CW or 10543 upper sideband. Morse code number station coming out of Moscow, Russia again. Kind of cool. If you guys can hear it, it's not very strong here, but it's there. It's definitely there. Matt says 16266 RTTY strong in Denver, Colorado. Gang of Four says, don't forget to hit the like button. Of course. PLF radio can hear the CW also. Pretty cool. It's nice to hear these signals. Kind of puts you in the middle of the spy. You know, it's like it's James Bond time. We're listening to spy number stations. I mean, so, you know, they're actually going to watch my schedule and they're going to say, hey, no need a radio. Just watch the videos of that guy, the live stream of that guy in Canada. He always puts the messages. Apart from that, looking at the HF Underground, still going on apparently is 6955 upper sideband WLR Wasteland Radio. Apparently. Matt says 10544 CW weak, but there. Cool. Gang of Four, can't wait to get a new radio. Been without a shortwave for 10 years. Cool. I'm going to have fun. So, Leon, can you receive BMR frequencies? Yeah, on the VHF, UHF range. But I don't have any PMR decoding stuff here. What else do we have? What's the Texan S200? Texan S200. Never heard of the Texan S200 outdoor loop. You have a link for that? James Farley, nice to have you here. Yeah, I got 72. Actually, here I have 174 viewers right now and 73 likes. So I guess it didn't refresh. Device 9 got a new RSP1A this week. A lot of stuff to figure out. Yeah, there is a learning curve. Absolutely. Yeah, some police and public safety can use that. Absolutely. It depends on the service. Oh, the AN200. Because the AN200 is that's a medium wave antenna, and it's an indoor antenna. King Shane, UK, nice to have you here. Gang of Four says lives 10 miles from the Canadian border in New Hampshire. Cool. Key X80Xer says mine says 28. That's weird. That is weird. Something not updating probably in the probably if you would like get out of the stream and come back in, you would have the probably updated numbers, I would guess. There's another RTTY signal coming out of Moscow, Russia in 5 minutes. So we're going to check that out. How long you had your YouTube channel? This one started in, what was it, 2012? 2011 or 2012? So it's been, we're going to be, what, if it's 2012, it's 2011, we're 10 years this year. If it's 2012, I need to look at the date. I think it's 2012. And that would mean that it's 10 years. 10 years of YouTube. Wow. Just can't believe it. Time flies. It's just crazy. Rufus says, Joel numbers are the good ones. Yep, Charles Williams. Yeah, with the icon, with the icon on the dryer in the kitchen. That was something. That was something. John Beckham is RAI still on shortwave from Italy? Nope. Radio Italy's shortwave broadcasts stopped, and well, it's been a while, more than 10 years. I don't remember what year they actually stopped, but it's been a long time since Italy left shortwave, unfortunately. Thank you, Keegan. Sid, nice to have you here from UK. Great show as always. Thank you very much. Yeah, time really goes fast. All the channels are created pretty much at the same time. The ones that I actually operate now, I'm down to pretty much 4. I know you guys like the VHF, UHF channel, but you know, taking care of YouTube channels and making videos every day is very time consuming. At some point, you got to make choices, and right now, the main ones that I take care of are this shortwave channel, the Windows channel, and the Windows Insider channel. The other ones is as time is available, basically. Go ahead. Do something for the YouTube anniversary. Yeah. The what I was thinking mostly was next year, 2022, in August, it's going to be 40 years. 40 years of me, of official shortwave listening with the with my realistic DX100, which I still have and still works. There will need to be some special event for that to celebrate 40 years. I mean, without that radio back in August of 82, I wouldn't be here doing any of this today. It's pretty sure. Actually, 1982 is the year where everything started so I could do this. Basically, my first official shortwave radio, the realistic DX100, but also my first computer, the VIC-20, the Commodore VIC-20. So 1982, in my timeline of events that brings me to what I'm doing here, probably is extremely important in my life because it's the shortwave start and the start of a passion that was incredible, and a computer start, which also was a big passion. So I was, always divided between my radios and my computers, basically. So let's try RTTY 14541. 14541 upper sideband, guys. And we should hear some radio teletype signal coming out of Moscow, Russia. Once again, number station in radio teletype F06A 14541 should be starting soon. So it's like, if in a timeline of all of this, it's in 1982 has transformed my life basically. King Shane, what I would recommend for a beginner. A Texan PL 330. Texan PL 330, because it has everything you need from the start with single sideband and everything, and it's an amazing price versus performance. The export, can you see the Sirius XM signals on the SDR? No, I believe they are a higher frequency than what the SDR goes here. Sirius XM is much higher in frequency than what my SDR is capable of tuning. Rufus says refresh were great. David should have a shortwave convention get together. Everybody come to Montreal and have a big radio party. We'll book that for next year. John Beckham says Realistic was indeed a very famous house branded Radio Shack. Oh yeah. Fastlow, that is in the chat room from time to time, worked at a Radio Shack, and he said that DX100 was a big seller at the time. People would buy that to listen to shortwave. I mean, it's a crappy radio when you look at it today, but it was so easy to get shortwave signals back then that it just caught tons of signals. It was just amazing. Dimitri says that's amazing how many stations you got from portable radio. Oh, there's Ali Crafter's Kitchen. Nice to have you on board. I feel old now. 44 years this Christmas with my Panasonic RF 2200. 44 years. I need to, this week I was thinking about it. I wanted to do like an evening with my Realistic DX100 and plug it in, plug it on my W6LV P loop. Eric Cottrell, if you started your YouTube channel in 2012, then 10 years is 2022. Yeah, if it's 2012, but I think it's 2012. So next year is going to be 10 years. But I'm not sure if it's 2012 or 2011. So anyways, we're here. That's the important thing. Peter John says, I use a Kenwood R-1000 receiver with a G5 RV antenna. Works great. And Dave's getting hams. Well, there's no hams on 14541. If you're hearing some talk, it's something else. Because the 20-meter ham band is from 14,000 to 14,350. Gang of Four got two DX375 Radio Shack radios from back in the day. He died years ago. Not sure what is wrong with them. They're pretty rock solid in general here. Matt has nothing on 14541. I was not hearing anything either. So the signal maybe is not making it. PLF radio is hearing the RTTY, so that means it's there. It's just it's not propagating to us here in North America. Bernie Dodge monitoring 14541 on the U20 receiver in the Netherlands. Dane 961's been here since I listened. Are there still number stations broadcasting? You used to find those really interesting. There are tons of them still broadcasting. We just heard in the last hour, we just heard 3 or 4 of them already in different modes. But there are some voice ones also. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board. I went to Bastogne, Belgium in the 1980s. They had a Tandy store that was essentially a Radio Shack. Yeah, in Europe, Radio Shacks were called Tandy. Here in Canada, there was kind of a mix of that. There was Tandy Corporation and Radio Shack. They kind of dabbled and mixed them kind of for sure. RGA Dakota had a few neat radios from Realistic. Yeah, that's what I was saying. King Shane. Here it's Radio Shack, but I know in Europe it was Tandy. Dave, my first shortwave receiver, the Realistic DX380. Believe a rebranded Sangean. Yeah, there were some Sangeans that were rebranded as a Realistic. There was some other brands also that were made by GRE, and there's many Realistic receivers most of them were not really made by Radio Shack. They were made by some company like Sangean, for example, for Radio Shack and branded as Realistic. Some of them were like both brands, like the DX398, for example, was a Sangean ATS 909. It was the same radio, but they did branding for Radio Shack. So pretty interesting stuff. Urban Exploration Mexico 14541, not available in Mexico. Pesky's on 14542 lower sideband. So that could be some, that's not impossible. Let me try it out here. 14542 lower sideband. Am I hearing anything? Paul, nice to have you here from Southwest Michigan. Use 14540. Yeah, Enter 10 Canada. I remember that. All these branding. Mark, nice to have you on board. No problems being late. Urban Exploration Mexico. When I was a kid, I wanted to buy that Realistic receiver in Radio Shack. My parents were like, "No, you already have a CB." Yeah, for them it was the same thing. They didn't know. They didn't know. Candy Gloss, nice to have you here. Gang of Forest says, after Art Bell's Coast to Coast show was over, I would listen to Art on shortwave around 3815, I believe. Franco AC, apologies. The Texan loop is the S2000. No, that's not a loop. The Texan S2000 is a radio. Seems to appear on UK eBay. I can't find any other links. That's interesting. Because the S2000 is a known Texan model, but it's a radio. That's weird. Dimitri has WRMI station very clear in Minnesota. John Beckham, I believe that Sangean made a couple of crank-up radios. Yeah, they made a lot of stuff. Absolutely. And I did make a couple of crank-up radios, I do believe. Kamaxi 76, maybe if we give Vladimir Putin the political contribution, he would give us the decode key. Here it goes, guys. The key is on page 6. Mike WDX50. My DX160 was good until I fell asleep one time or two listening with headphones and accidentally pulled the radio off my desk. I had to deal with the off alignment for a while until someone helped align. Oh, man. Joseph Richard, good afternoon from South Portland, Maine. I hope all is going well for you today. Thank you for your time and sharing with us. Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Gang of Four, saw your review of the Texan PL990X. Where is a good place to order it from? The best place is Anonco, Anonco. I just posted the name. That's the best place to buy any Texan branded stuff. I can tell you that. A reference says, my pay stubs always said enter 10. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. Paul, have a RSPDX now, learning to use the Uno software. Lots of info online, thankfully. Yeah. There's a lot of, the basics of, remember that you click on the frequency display at the top. If you click in there, you can actually just punch in whatever frequency you want to listen to. One thing that I use a lot on SDR Uno, the keyboard shortcuts for upper, lower, sideband, and AM. So if I punch in a frequency here, for example, I press this space and the frequency disappears. I want to punch in 15,000 kilohertz, 15000, enter, and I just press the letter A. It goes in AM mode. U and USB, or L and the lower sideband, or C for CW. If you remember that, it makes it super easy to punch in anything and go on any frequency. So you can press the space bar if you're already in that mode there of tuning, or you just click on the display of the frequency. Punch in the frequency you're tuning. You want to listen to Radio New Zealand 13840 at night, 13840, enter. A for AM if it's not already in AM mode on your keyboard. So there's a lot of little things that make it easier to tune around. And then you have the filters. You got to make sure to get use the proper filters. I often use 8,000 kilohertz filter on shortwave AM, although 6,000 should be pretty much the norm. And then there's a lot of stuff to learn there. That's for sure. But at least going with the basics of what you do. AE1TP, A92GW, Tom, nice to have you on board, says S2000, great radio, have one. Dave says it is an active passive loop that is marketed as for the S2000. Oh, okay. Okay. So that's why the S2000 comes up, because it says for that radio. Huh. TVDXer. Last time I was in Cabo in 2019, there was a Radio Shack in a strip mall there right across from the Walmart. Wow. And Onco ships from Hong Kong, but sometimes it can ship from somewhere else. It depends on what you're buying. But even from Hong Kong, to give you an idea, my Texan H501, I've ordered on a Sunday, got on Monday morning, got here on a Wednesday afternoon from Hong Kong. Now, of course, shipping wasn't free, but it really, really worked. Pretty fast shipping. And Onco is an extremely good place to order these radios. Very good service, fast shipping. As Matt says, they're basically Texan's U.S. retail outlet, pretty much. John Beckham, if a radio has RDS, of course I do enjoy having the RDS radio data system on FM, because you have weather information, you have the song titles when you have some music playing. Often you have the station call letters. Yes, RDS is definitely a nice feature to have. That said, I don't necessarily miss it when I don't have it, but I would tell Texan that next big radios that they do, if they do any others, it would be nice to have an RDS display. It would be nice to add that to those radios. Deep coder, what SDR do you use? I have here this one right now is the SDR Play RSPDX running on SDR Uno. I also have here just in front of me a small AirSpy HF Plus Discovery that I use from time to time. Yeah, it's the same, the Texan S2000 and the Ethon 750, except for one little detail. I don't know why. The Ethon 750 does not have the IF out jack that the S2000 does have in the back. The S2000 has a IF out, which actually can make it simpler for some people that want to use a radio for, say, DRM decoding. The Ethon 750 doesn't have it. I've read it a few times. PLF Radio, do you get the RTT wire from Pinneberg, Germany on 10100? Let me check it out if I hear it right now. Yeah, it's there. It's not very strong though. It's not very strong, but it's there. I hear it. It's not very strong, but it's there. I caught the last minute and a half or so of that German weather facts station, and was on, what was it, 12882 or something like that, kilohertz upper sideband, a couple of days ago. Got it too late. I would have wanted to fire up the software and decode the weather facts chart. So James Johnson says Radio Shack still in business, but barely. James Johnson says, I think there's 2 or 3 in the Chicago area here in the hardware stores. John Beckham Radio Shack now has an online store, but it's not what it was. It's not like Radio Shack from the time. So it's like I don't know. Let me check something here. I'm gonna check it out through here. It's gonna be the best thing to do. If I go here, switch account, this here, and I go into the, so this is my channel, about October 1st, 2012 is when I started the channel. So the exact date, we got it here, October the 1st, 2012. There was an older one that I had before, which started in 2008. It had Kenwood R-5000 videos, but I lost that channel, so I had to recreate a new one. But here it says October 1st, 2012, 29,000 subscribers at this time, and 7.5 million video views on the channel. So 29,000 subscribers, 7,586,000 video views. Not bad. For a shortwave channel, I think we can say it's not bad at all. Yeah, Dave, it is interesting to see all the different namings going on. The COAD on the XH data, the Ethon, the Texan, it's all mixed in. You got to follow it to make sure that you're where it's going on. Take care, Tom DX, sir. David in Barcelona, ¿cómo está mi amigo? EA3IEK, EA499ATURESWL. And nice to have you here. D-Export, any word on what the 330S, the 330 new firmware does? I don't know. I know it's on it's at 3306 now. But I don't know what actually changed or what they fixed. Difference between the 3305 and the 3306 firmware, exactly. Dave says it would be nice to have a chart of who makes for whom. I want to also have a Grendig with a Texan board inside. Yeah, it would be interesting. Bobby Burgess, yeah, that's why it says 8 years, because in October it would probably be 9 years. Deep Coder got an RTL SDR blog. SDR can't transmit but can receive. Yeah, it's just a receive software defined radio. Chas Tank, nice to have you here from Louisville, Kentucky. Robert Prosper. The main display behind you, what is the bandwidth that it displays for? So right now I'm at, so it goes from, it's about 1 megahertz wide right now. So if I change it, it says 2 megahertz maximum that I can zoom in or out to. So I can zoom out like this. And right now I'm seeing 2 megahertz now, maybe 1.5. And I can go back here and that will be, that will have the end. But if I go and click here, I can go to 10 megahertz. If I look at right now, I see from 5,000 kilohertz at the bottom there to 15,000 kilohertz there. I can zoom in a little. Right now I would be at 7,600 kilohertz all the way up to 12,500 kilohertz. So we see the 25 meter band here, 31 meter band there, and a few little things in the middle there. So depending on how much I want to see, I will usually, for example, most of the time, I will actually put this at around 4 megahertz. And I will be watching about, I'd say, I would be watching 2 to 3 megahertz wide in my spectrum in general to see what is in there. But on a big screen, it's fun because you have all of the information. That's what I was saying earlier this week in a video. The little, Chinese Malachite or even the Russian one, they're cute devices, but for me, it doesn't replace a regular portable because the screen is way too small and I don't see enough spectrum, which is the number one thing that I like about an SDR. Bernie Dodge, Moscow numbers, RTTY just stopped. Gang of 4, was there a glitch in the Texan PL990X that was recently fixed? I just want to be sure to get a radio with a new fix. Not that I was aware of. I don't have any. I can't say I have any particular glitches on the 990X. One thing for sure is if you buy it from an Onco, what's nice with an Onco is you always get the latest version compared to what you would get, say, on the what you would get basically on the from eBay or whatever. You don't know what you're getting on eBay actually most of the time. So what else do we have here? Yeah, but there's a difference between IBC, Italian Broadcasting Corporation, and the RAI, Radio Televisione Italiana. They are separate entities. If they're separate entities, and RAI has stopped long time ago. Art Dodd, nice to have you here. K2ADC in New Jersey. PLF Radio, RTRY from Pinneberg, Germany, is a weather map of the North Sea and Baltic Sea from what I remember. Yeah, but that's RTTY. It's WeatherFax that has images. That should have text detail, I believe. RJDA Dakota, these days Radio Shack sends emails to customers if desired, like a catalog. David KJ4CMY, I like my local Radio Shack. I could just go down and buy a diode or a resistor and have it right away instead of by mail order. Yeah. Eric Cottrell, computer store up in Massachusetts that carries most Radio Shack products. Interesting. And 6RLS, there's a website with all the Radio Shack. Yeah, the Radio Shack catalogs. So brings back so many memories. JT Gregory, KF5HLF in Louisiana. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Paul says there's a nice Radio Shack in Niles, Michigan. Surprised they still carry so many electronic components, scanners, and 2 or 3 shortwave radios. Wow. Surprising. Yep, like PLF Radio says, Texan S2000 equals Ethon 750, Greenwich 750. John, nice to have you here. G4YTW in the UK. John Beckham have a very high opinion of the name and quality of the Radio Wow company. What else we have? What else do we have? Our JD Dakota. XH Data, CO Adon is the same company. XH Data has their own YouTube channel. You can see both radio manufacturers there. I believe they are the same. Yeah. There can be 40 different shortwave manufacturers. There's just a few of them, and everything comes out of these, 2 or 3 different factories, pretty much. Kind of interesting. Robert Osborne just wrote a DOS bash file to do frequency lookups in the frequency text file from the command line. Cool. Nice way to use you can use an old computer for that. Joe, nice to have you on board. Just unboxed the H501X. Cool. Paul says the SDR knows IF modes confuse me. ZIF, LIF. How do you choose one or the other? So one is 0 IF. The low one has a low IF, and the difference between them is that sometimes you might have images. So if you tune to low frequencies and have, for example, images of the medium wave station and the shortwave bands, or images of the higher frequency ranges and the frequency range you're listening to, and you're wondering if that signal's on that frequency, you can switch from 0 IF to low IF, and that's going to actually give you immediately, you'll know if you had an image or not, because you'll move to the other and the image is going to be gone. So it depends on the frequency range you're listening to mostly. Greg K6EGG. So, and what do you talk about in your live streams? The export, have you heard if Texan will stay with just the 368 or they'll follow up with the 368X? I think from what I've read, I think they're going to stay with the 368 simply. There's no X to it. One of the things to know about the 368, guys, and Dan Robinson actually talked about it in his review, you cannot calibrate this radio. You can calibrate the PL330, the H51X, the 990X. You cannot calibrate the PL368. That is weird, considering that the 330, for such a cheap radio can be calibrated, not that one. I've had a little hard time with that. PLF radio, you're right. Sorry, RT2Y Pinenberg. Yeah, it's that's much more of a text one. Yeah, the free battery a month card. Of course, that was a great thing they did with that, because what that did is that it kept all of us going to Radio Shack all the time, because we wanted to have our free battery, and then we would see all the other stuff they sell, and we wanted to have tons of things. Robert Prosper says he's so old he can remember the Allied radio before it linked with Tandy. So crazy. PR4470, first time here, commenting, new to shortwave, just purchased the Texas 990X. Nice to have you here from Texas. So yeah, RadioWire, XH Data, all of that are just like the same company. Absolutely. SoCal, nice to have you here from Ramona, California. AJ6II. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Scott Belcher, Mrs. Radio Shack. Nothing like going into the store and looking for what you want. Yep, absolutely. Kato and Degen were together. Texan is with some others. It's weird. It's almost, when you start looking at all the different brandings, you start going a little nuts trying to understand who's who and what is what exactly in the radio sphere in China. That very strong RTTY signal, but Voice of Turkey is actually there on 9830 kilohertz. Voice of Turkey in English, 9830. Now here I have a very strong radio teletype that comes from the East Coast, which is the U.S. Navy, I believe, which should stop within the next 10 or 15 minutes usually. Oh, man. What was the strangest signal I intercepted on shortwave? There's so many things over the years. RDOT, there's, anything from weird, number stations are already weird and strange. Then you have all sorts of events happening. I still remember that was memorable. Being at Perry Island a few years ago, the video's online on the channel, and it actually I'm listening to the air band above the 16-meter broadcast band of 17 megahertz. There's a small chunk of air band there. And I still remember receiving a plane that is in the Caribbean, and they're actually patching a phone call to a doctor because there's somebody in the plane that is having a heart attack. It's like, wow. That's a good one, PLF Radio. I don't know exactly with Degen and Kato. I think they're their own branding. So it's kind of weird. Gang of Four says, I saw on Anonco there's a PL990X kit and the 990X. Do you know what's the difference? Yeah, the kit comes with a plastic casing and has a recorder included in the casing. So you have an MP3 recorder that you can use to record stuff out of the radio, and has added stuff in it. Where the PL990X standard just comes with, the radio. Some people don't have the power supply or anything, where the kit will have the power supply and all of that. So it adds stuff in it. And the 990X kit comes in a plastic casing. Robert Prosper. You know what Radio Shack's big problem, actually? The problem with Radio Shack is they tried to become mainstream like every other electronics store. And I think they didn't understand that the way they were was the way we want them. We geeks, electronics and radio and whatever geeks would go there because of the way it was. And as they became more and more mainstream, we weren't interested anymore. Here in Montreal and here in Canada, actually, the Radio Shacks, they were rebranded. The Source by Circuit City. Then when the Source by Circuit City in the US kind of went bankrupt, Canada's own The Source became just The Source. And these are the old Radio Shacks. They still have one here at the shopping mall where I go. But it's uninteresting. There's nothing interesting in there. It's so mainstream now that boring store. I don't even last time I went in was, I don't know, a year ago, even more. But there is still some feeling, the shopping mall here is going to be shut down in December. And I mean, that's the shopping mall I would go when I was young. So it has a special meaning for me. That's where the Radio Shack was. That's where I got my DX100. There were so many things back then. I went today I went in that vicinity. So I went into the shopping mall because I wanted to take pictures of the mall, because I know that, in 6 months it's going to be gone. And I passed in front of the Source, of course, and I looked inside and I was like, yeah, famous Radio Shack. It wasn't positioned in the same place in the mall back then. It was in another spot, but still was Radio Shack. And man, I love that place. And there was kind of a weird feeling this afternoon. It was like, well, this is not just because of the Radio Shack or whatever, but because of the mall. I went there so many times when I was young. Went there with my family, my dad, my mom, my sisters. It has a special meaning, and it's going to be gone in December because they're building a new subway line. The Metro line here, the Blue Line, is going to be extended, and one of the stations for the Blue Line is going to be where the mall is. So they actually are going to destroy the mall because of that. TVDXer says the Cabo Mexico location was cool to go into from a nostalgic perspective, but it wasn't the shacks that we remember. Yeah. Charlie W8CFO purchased 2-tube regenerative receiver mail order from Allied Radio in the late 40s. Wow. First shortwave radio. Crazy. Joseph Richard. I like to listen to my local airport. My 660 picks up the signal, but it is low volume. Can you recommend a good airband specific radio? The best would be to just get yourself a scanner radio. For airband, scanner radios are hard to beat. They do everything, and they do it pretty well. Just checking here, guys. 22 UTC. We have. Oh. Okay, 2210. 10223. Am I hearing? Yep. 10223 CW or 10222 upper sideband. Another Morse code station from Russia. This one actually is strong enough to make a trace in the waterfall. Here it is. Look at that, guys. You could see it in my waterfall there. So that's Moscow, Russia. Number station, once again, M12. And that is on 10223 CW or 10222 upper sideband if you don't have CW. That one's not bad at all. Canadian Radio TV guy went to make pizzas in the oven. Turns out the bottom bake element is burnt out. Oh, man. Darn it. No pizza. Wow, an old stove. Man. Joe, we have a real good Radio Shack here in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. Still lots of components, electronic tools, wire, batteries. Only thing missing is a radio section. Here I'm lucky because I live really close to a store which is called Addison Electronics, which has a lot of parts, wires, and stuff that I need. Think about it as a glorified Radio Shack. And it does actually have a radio section. They do sell a St. Jean ATS 405 for a shortwave radio. And they have a lot of course, AM, FM radios and internet radios also. So it isn't too bad. There's kind of a lot of gadgets, and they have electronic circuits that you could build and stuff. It's not too bad. Rufus barbecue night here. Chimney is full of charcoal, ready to clark. Yeah, here I'm going to make chicken burgers, actually. And I make my chicken burgers with chicken breasts. I cut the chicken breast in half. And I then put it in... I'll let it marinate with some mix of barbecue sauce, and then I just cook it on the barbecue, and then I put that between two, hamburger buns with salad, lettuce, tomatoes, and mayo, and it's just amazing. John Beckham, my Ceodon R108 is receiving Radio Turkey on 9830 in Florida. Cool. Mike WDX50 used to work at the grocery store that was just a few hundred yards away from the local Radio Shack. Made it easy to visit often. They always had new stuff coming in back then. Yep. It's pretty crazy. Urban Exploration Mexico records the radio reports with his smartphone. Yeah, that's a good idea. Harry Alden, when you recharge the battery of your H509X, do you leave them in the radio or use outside charger? Just thinking about the heat or possible fire hazard with the lithium battery. I just charge them within the radio, and that's it. I do have external chargers for 18650s, but just easier that way, and I just leave them in the radio. even though lithium-ion batteries do have a certain risk, the chances of that happening are pretty much zero. And when you charge them, they charge really slow. They barely heat up within the radio. They're just warm to the touch, nothing more. Jason, V9 for 9030, you can use the notch filter. Yeah. Well, the notch filters, RTTY is kind of hard to notch off because of the multiple tones that they give. But yeah, I could do that. But I always found it funny that nobody, I don't know if anybody has ever told him at Voice of Turkey, in your summer frequency, you might want to consider another one because 9830 is always that RTTY coming in. It's just crazy. Take care, gang of 4. It's nice to have you on board. Yeah, like Dave says, Radio Shack just became too mainstream. And it wasn't interesting anymore. Exploration Mexico says, when Radio Shack lost money, a supermarket chain named Gigante bought it here in Mexico. And the stores went mainstream. No more electronic components. Yeah, and that's not what we want. We want the Radio Shack that we loved back then with parts and all sorts of gadgets and stuff. We don't want to have a standard electronics, going to buy a big screen TV radio. It's fine that they sell those, but they decided, hey, we're going to sell cell phones and TVs and yeah, okay, but that's not what I want. That's not what it was all about, Dimitri, yeah, 9420, which is Greece. Brad and Amelio says Radio Shack also ran off the road with the toys and stuff geared towards little kids. Yeah. Dave, where do you all buy components now? If I need a connector or capacitor or resistor, I have no place local to go. At least not like Radio Shack in so many shopping plazas. Here, I'm lucky. I have a store not far from here. But you know what? I needed some specific pots for a project, two 10 kiloohms potentiometers with, at least 2 watts of capability. And I ended up buying them on Amazon, actually. I was like, well, I'm buying my electronic parts on Amazon now. Yeah, I also like that. I bought quite a few radio-controlled cars. I remember the one that I really loved. It was so noisy, but I had a radio-controlled tank from Radio Shack. That thing could go up, I remember there was a friend of mine, he had this 4x4, and I would actually always have fun because we would go up hills, and this 4x4 was not strong enough to actually go up the hill. My tank just went through the hill and is like, yep. Another moment that was so fun is we go in a place there's no cement or asphalt. It's just grass. But the grass isn't long, but it's just grass. He puts his 4x4 in the grass and it works, but it really drains the battery like crazy. And he gets stuck everywhere. I put my tank in the grass. It's like, it goes over a rock. I mean, I had a lot of fun with that. I can tell you that. So, pretty crazy. Thomas Olson, looking for a recommendation for a USB charger with AC outlet, would like to recharge 18650 and others. In other words, multiple batteries. Yeah, I'd go on Amazon. They have tons of those. I would buy one from there. Honestly. Urban Exploration Mexico. Is there something good to listen in the SSB 2-meter VHF band? You'll have choice between either local hams doing single sideband, but it is my fun part of the 2-meter band and single sideband has to do with amateur radio satellites. When they pass over you you can easily, in single sideband, hear the amateurs having contacts on the 2-meter band. That's my fun of the 2-meter band, and even the UHF 70 centimeter band, listening to hams having contacts over the satellites. That's pretty cool. Joe says, I heard on 8 megahertz of phonetics Alpha Delta like that kind of number station. The guy was calling himself longhand USB about 1 a.m. Yeah, you're probably on 8992, which is the U.S. Global Command Air Force frequency. And they have these phonetics messages, which are the messages that are sent for where they're called EAMs, or emergency action messages. So that's kind of interesting. We're going to try another one in 10 minutes, guys. There's the 9323 kilohertz CW station also out of Moscow, Russia. So 9323 kilohertz CW or 9322 upper sideband. I'm going to actually position my radio to 9323 CW, and we're going to leave it there, and we're going to probably hear that number station coming in from Moscow, Russia, once again, in Morse code. Rufus, sure make me hungry, y'all. Mark, all ham radio swap fests I go to have people selling mini individual circuit components. Yeah, ham fests are probably a good place for that, for sure. Brian Penny, nice to have you on board from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. John Beckham, the stereo of the month at Radio Shack. Yeah. RJ88 Dakota. Another one is Radio Romania and Radio Nacional in Amazonia are on the same frequency in the early evening. Yeah, that one I don't get. I thought that both of these stations, I mean, Radio Romania does register with the HFCC, which would mean that, Radio Nacional Amazonas doesn't register? Or if they do register, Radio Romania doesn't think that it's actually making it to North America? But definitely that one's a little mind-boggling for me with the two stations clashing for about an hour. Mark says that's too bad. They tend to have lots of old Radio Shack parts from close stores. Joe says Radio Shack got heavy into cell phones too. Yep. That was the main thing. I can tell you that. Thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly. I am Canadian French. Joseph Richard. Cool. You never know, because, sometimes it's Richard. It could be Richard, because, Richard is and also used in some English names. So it's like, is it Joseph Richard or Joseph Richard? You never know, because you don't know where the people come from. Yeah, pet radios for the kids and Radio Shack. Or these flavor radio, they called them, with the different colors. Terry Cook says Radio Shack is closing their company store in Billings, Montana, July 1st. Everything is 50% off. Soon to be more off. Wow. Joe says the Radio Shacks now are more independent. I don't think there's any corporate stores. No, and it's really their own thing, basically. What I liked at Radio Shack, and I guess you guys probably did that also, when there was something interesting at Radio Shack, you always waited when it was on sale, because you knew that whatever you wanted, 1 month is going to be on sale. The Radio Shack DX398, which is the same G and ATS 909, they sold it for $299 here, which was a lot of money, $300. And so I wanted to have that radio, and I remember waiting, and like 2 months later, I go to Radio Shack, it's $149. Woohoo! Now's the time to get it. Same thing. The Realistic Pro 2006 scanner was like 400, if not $500. I think it was $399 here at the time. I waited, and then one day I go to Radio Shack and it's like $269 on sale. That's when I got it. I got it at $269 because $400 was a lot of money. It's pretty crazy. Radio Shack dedicated weather radios. I had that little Realistic Cube, which was the weather radio. It's crazy. Oh, man. I had one of those. I don't know what happened to it. Oh, wow. You've got WBCQ at 40 over and 93.30. Okay. Mine is, it is there, but it's not, because we could see WBCQ there having a signal, but 93.23 is off enough to still be heard, even though that signal is pretty strong. Because, yep, 93.30 is pretty good, actually, right now. So that's kind of interesting. So 4 minutes for 9323 CW. What a cube. Gene Player. Joe says, I heard a guy call longhand on 8 megahertz sending code. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's probably a EAM, emergency action message, on 8992 kilohertz. As we have John Beckham says, who remembers a TRS-80 computer with basic language? Yeah, I had the Commodore. A friend of mine had the Coco computer. I had a Commodore 64. And yeah, I would bring it with me when we would go up north. I would bring the Weather Cube with me. Oh, man. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. KFI of Salt Lake City. No, I've never heard it here. Western part of Canada probably gets it, but here in the East Coast, inner Montreal, I've never heard it. Never heard KFI. Our dad heard on 25 megahertz back in the 90s. Militia group practicing maneuvers in upstate New York. Tune into log to monitoring times. They had to be extremist group. Learn to record my catches. Yeah. So 9323 is CW, which is usually CW upper sideband when asked by a device, or 9322 upper sideband in upper sideband simply. We'll see if 9323. It should be on in about a minute from now. So yeah, it's just crazy. Just crazy. I mean, the source that is here now doesn't have him anymore, but for a long time, they still had the some parts, and they had Archer stuff, like Archer antenna switches and stuff like that. That I'm pretty sure whoever had the the source for a while wondered what the hell these things were in the display. Oh, that one's strong. Here we go. M12 Russian number station in Morse code on 9323 kilohertz. 9323 kilohertz CW, or 9222 upper sideband, or 9224 lower sideband if you have the WBCQ interference. Paul says, Timon Sinclair $99 computer was my first, then a VIC-20 with programs on cassette tape. David McCormick, my seasoned beer today is La Chouffe Blonde. Cheers. I just have this left of vodka cranberry. Oh yeah, the one, and they had one that was really long with like, I don't know how many D batteries you put in there, but man, chest tank. Robert Prosper still had a Radio Shack Scanner Pro 2006. I think same thing Gilles has somewhere. I understand other people modified it to pick up analog cell calls. Yep, mine is modified. It's actually right here where the rabbit is. And I had clipped the diode to receive cell phones back in the day. I had the Bill Cheek book of scanner modifications. That was the book to have when you had several scanners or wanted to see the different mods. Oh, man. Good times. Rufus still has this Timex Sinclair 1000 with manuals and application cassettes. Cool. Yep, Radio Shack was big in the CB. They had a lot of models. Absolutely. Absolutely. Man. Kevin Michael has 8843 Hawaiian Airlines to San Francisco. 9-volt batteries were really popular back then for a lot of the smaller stuff because a lot of the electronics back then needed to have higher voltages. But if you didn't want to have, you don't want them to be like huge in old, six. At the worst, they were like 6 AA's. AAA's weren't very popular back then. AA's were probably the most used of the small ones, but 9-volt was often a battery used. But the problem with 9-volt batteries is they're kind of crappy because they're so small that they just don't hold that much of a charge. Pretty crazy. Urban Exploration Mexico receiving 9322 upper sideband in Mexico City. Cool. I remember what I particularly loved of the analog cell band was to listen in on the like at midnight on like Fridays or Saturdays. Oh yeah, I remember that, putting the 9-volt battery on my thumb. Actually, that was part of a big joke I was playing all the time. It's like, oh, have you ever licked a 9-volt battery? And everybody was like, no. Man, they would be so surprised when they did it. Man, we all did that, I think. Oh, God. Kev Michael, remember that to use to mod my multiband to get cell phone audio on the TV bands. I remember one black and white TV I had, which went, those older ones went to channel 83 on UHF. If you guys remember, older TVs would have UHF up to channel 83, and then the newer TVs went up to 69, and channels 70 to 83 were actually the frequencies used by the cell phones. And if you add one of those old TVs that went up to 83, if you fine tune carefully, you can often get conversations back then. I had a black and white TV that I could hear some of the cell conversations. Pretty crazy. The export. What frequencies did NASA use during the Apollo missions to the moon back when transmitting back to Earth? I don't know exactly what frequencies they used back then, but if we have to go back that we're in 1969 and that electronics, to have electronics receive, they I don't think they were in the gigahertz bands like today we do with our space stuff. I wouldn't be surprised they were somewhere in the VHF or even UHF range that they would use for that. They probably, I don't think they were in the gigahertz bands, not in 1969, but you never know. But I'd be curious to know what was the frequency used for the Apollo missions. One thing for sure, it had to be VHF or UHF because it had to go through the ionosphere, so it had to be a higher frequency range. So I wouldn't be surprised somewhere in the UHF range, maybe. But I don't know the exact frequencies they would use then. Dmitry says, what are the Russian stations up to with these Morse codes? Yeah, these are number stations. So that means that these are coded messages. Those coded messages could be just a pretend message. So maybe they can try to fool us and say, well, they're going to waste their time trying to decode stuff that isn't interesting. But for the most part, they're number stations. So having them in CW makes it more, it gives you a higher chance that the spy will actually hear the message, because voice number stations, unless the signal's quite good, might not make it, but the Morse code will. And if we follow the idea that they have one-time pads and stuff like that, that means that this message is directed to somebody or maybe multiple people, and basically they have a one-time pad probably just for today, and this message tells them something. What? It could be a mission. It could be something that they need to know about something happening at the government level. It could, spies. So it could be simply, well, it's okay. You have the okay for whatever mission tomorrow night or whatever, or all sorts of secret things. It's we're in the world of James Bond here. Yep, back then the cordless phones. Cordless phones were in the clear. Absolutely, you could hear your neighbors. The fun days of having scanner radios. That probably made the scanner radios very popular because people could listen to their neighbors or their, I remember a friend of mine he was friends with the next door neighbor, and when he would go back home, then he'd hear the next door neighbor ranting against him on his scanner radio. And I remember it's like my friend says, my dad wants to go over, and it's like he can't. He's not allowed to he can listen, but he can't do anything about it. He's got to pretend he's not hearing anything. It's like you can't go to the neighbor and knock him off because you talk bad of him. It's crazy, I'm sure there were a lot of people that probably had some feuds over the fact that they would hear a neighbor talk bad about him. I wouldn't be surprised. Max 777, been using a Panasonic RF2200 for shortwave, and I'm listening, but would like to get a new digital radio. Can you recommend one that will be as good or better as the RF2200? Well, the newer radios today are all as good. It's just, it depends what you're actually looking for. If you're looking for a big radio or smaller radio, or the new radios today are all pretty good. Depends on how much you want to spend also for a radio. XN80Xer says had a RC solid state black and white TV and a Zenith color TV, both from the 80s. I could tune up to channel 83. Yeah. Maxi 76. For the first couple of years, I played with my Commodore 64 on the black and white TV. I was so bummed at the time. When I got my Commodore VIC-20, my parents had purchased a brand new color TV. And the old 20-inch color TV, which was kind of working a little weird, but was still working, became my Commodore monitor. So I was so happy. 20-inch color TV, man. 6 months into that, one day I turned on the TV. Nothing happened. TV wasn't working anymore. I had to go and fetch that black and white TV in order to have my Commodore computer. Boy, was I bummed and so sad. It was like, no, don't tell me I'm going to have to see all in black and white from my Commodore computer, please. Oh, man. I had several of this. The Robert Prosper says he had the 150-in-1 electronics kit. I remember I was about, I don't know, 13, 14, not far after the Realistic DX100. I went to Radio Shack and I had like $20 in my pocket. And I looked and there was a 20-in-1 or 25-in-1 kit. It was called a solar kit. It had little solar panels on top, and it had 25 experiments, 20 or 25. And I remember there was an AM radio. There was, oh man, I had so much fun with those kits. And I had a 150-in-1, and I had a 200-in-1 also. Man, I had a lot of fun with these kits. Man. And yeah, they had relays. That's for sure, like Jason says, because the moon wasn't always up. So they had to relay from different stations in the around the world. Absolutely. It's possible, Dimitri. It could be coded messages between two army bases. Absolutely. That could be the case. Absolutely. What else do we have? Pretty crazy when you think about it. How things happen. Yep, Jerry. Lots of spy activity. Absolutely. So chess tank from Earth to the Apollo spacecraft 2282.5, 2101. So 2 gigahertz. Pretty high. Pretty high frequencies. My uncle worked on the space program from Mercury through the Apollo. Wow, pretty high. 2 gigahertz. Wow. Pretty high frequencies. There's other crafters mission. Kitchen says Apollo 11 used 2,276.5 megahertz. Crazy. So they were in 2 gigahertz range, just above the what we can hear today. Pretty crazy. Oh yeah, Kev Michael. The first generation of cell phones were on the 150 megahertz range. I remember when they had to call up an operator, then give their number, and then they would put the call on and the bell service here. I remember that 150 for around 152 megahertz range. That was crazy. The first cordless phones were in the 1.8 megahertz range. The first cordless phones of all used the 1.7 megahertz range. They were actually AM mode, and they were just below the 160 meter band, but above the medium wave bands. So if you had a shortwave radio that went down to, that was a general coverage, you could get the first generation of cordless phones in the 1.7 megahertz range. and those were AM mode. And I remember hearing a couple back in the early days of the realistic DX100 in 1982, 83. Those were phased out in favor of the 46 megahertz cordless phones. And those were dominant for a long time. And those also were in the open. And then we moved on to the 900 megahertz phones. Those were half analog, half digital, depending on the models you bought. And then you had the 2.4 gigahertz cordless phones, which are still in use and sold today. And 5.8 cordless phones also. Pretty crazy. But the first ones were 1.6 megahertz and 1.7 megahertz, and they were AM. My mom actually had one of those. It was like, wow, with a very long antenna that you had to open. It's really crazy. Really crazy. Yeah, 1978. That would have been the time of the 1.7 megahertz ones. So, yeah, there was a mix for a while. Like Terry Cook says, there was a mix. Some have started off. So some started off being 1.7 both ways. Then they went to some were mixed 1.7, 46. Then 46. Some were mixed 46, 900. So one side was 900, one side was 46 megahertz. And they would go on. I remember when the phone stopped working, I opened the base of the 1.7 cordless phone. And I wondered why it didn't have an antenna. And that's where I had found the base. I think it was a GE phone. The base had a ferrite, like an AM radio. That was receiving the signal from the handset, actually, which means it was super directional. So you probably had some dead spots in there. Kind of interesting. It's crazy what happens with technology over time. It's like when we look at the remote control stuff today, remote control stuff, pretty much all were in the CB channels for a long time. So you had five or six channels in between the CB channels that were used for the remote controls. And the only one that fell on a channel actually was the one on channel 23, 27255. Take care, Thomas Olson. And then we had 46 megahertz remote controls that happened for a lot of the toys and a lot of the remote control stuff, the racing cars and so on. Often they would sell a 46 megahertz version, a 49 megahertz version, and a 27 megahertz version, so that if you wanted to play with your friends, well, you'd pick up one will pick up the 49 megahertz, one will pick up the 27 megahertz. Like that, we can actually both use the remote control cars together. There were iron hand stuff also that used the 70, was somewhere in the 70 megahertz range. I remember we had my uncle would build remote control boats, and he had built a replica of a Titanic. It was a big thing. I mean, the boat was like this big. It was. I remember being impressed by the boat. And he had sold one to my dad, which used it for a while before he actually dismantled all of it to try to make something else that he never did. But that had a 70 megahertz. That one was a 70 megahertz remote control. And today they're all using 2.4 gigahertz. They're using they're using Wi-Fi from your phone and stuff like that, and they're trying to It's not the same. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't have the same feel. It's like, it was fun when they had these specific frequencies for remote control back then. Now everything is in 2.4 gigahertz range, and some of them are using your your smartphone's Wi-Fi to control with an app and stuff like that. It ain't the same anymore. For sure. Joe says going to an island right off the river to Savannah, Georgia port for vacation. 3 to 5 large container ships a day come and go. Would like to hear some of that communications. The best bet for you in there would be to listen to the VHF marine band, which is around 156, 157 megahertz. Here, when the container ships want to go through the St. Lawrence, some of them stop in the Montreal port. There's a lot of activity here with the port and the seaway, and from time to time I'll hear some comms, including the port tower talking to some of the boats in the VHF range. Try and scan constantly around. The VHF ranges for marine band is like from like 155 to 158 megahertz in there. In that 3 megahertz spectrum, you'll hear some VHF marine activity. Lloyd, nice to have you here. W1LBM from Rhode Island. Paul, listening in on other phones was not anonymous. You could hear when another handset cut in. Yeah. Yeah, Rufus, absolutely. I would key up my CB. I would do it for so many times. I remember a friend of mine. It's like, my remote control truck never works well at your place. I don't understand why. It's like every time he would fire it up, I'd key on the CB. Some of them use tones. I remember, like, I would create with my voice. I would like, boo, and you can see it turn left or right or go straight. If you had the right tone in your voice, it would just do that direction. The ones that used only the basic tones. Jason is getting some weak stations on 27385 lower sideband. Let's just check it out here. 385 lower sideband. Any activity here? Nothing much right now. Let's just zoom out a little bit. There's some activity on the Super Bowl channel from what I see here. Not a lot of it. It's not very strong, but there's a little bit of activity in the Super Bowl channel. So maybe you were close to some skip night. Mark says, CB's open my grandma's garage door all the time. Nothing missing, just the door was open in the morning. Oh, man. Yep, a lot of spectrum now. For sure. You can even do it, Joe, if you want to have it really well spaced. Just type VHF marine band on Google, and you'll get the band plan of each frequencies and what channel they are. So what you could do is use one of the banks in your scanner, program all the direct frequencies of the marine band. So like that, instead of scanning empty spaces in between the channels, you'll scan the actual channels, which make a lot more.
You sounded good, man. You sound like my late friend. Sounds like my late friend out of Youngstown. You sound a little like my late friend out of Youngstown, right?
Right. Hey, my late friend. So there's activity, as you guys just heard. So program each channel like that. You're going to have the a marine bank basically, and that's going to be even more efficient than just scanning the frequency range there in the marine band. But you'll definitely hear some stuff. Kev Michael says VHF Marine was hot in San Pedro and Long Beach harbors. So there's a lot of stuff to listen to in there, for sure. Darren Rogers, speaking of 1978, Radio Shack also had a large, nice quality analog multi-band radio. It covered AM, FM, some of the shortwave bands, and the VHF bands. Not sure if it has also covered UHF. I have here the which is the ancestor to a scanner radio, basically. It just doesn't scan. I've got the Patrolman CB60. That was for a long time how I listened to 2-meter nets. And VHF, UHF, it had UHF also. I still have it here. It still works. Boy, I remember tuning around there, listening to all sorts of things, wondering what it was, listening to airplanes. That was cool. Patrolman CB60. I actually have 2 of them. I have the CB60 and its little brother, the SW60, which the only difference between both, the CB60 has CB channel 1 to 40, where the SW60 has shortwave from 6 to 18 megahertz. So kind of cool. So Mark has DX60 shortwave. Yeah, that one was a popular one also, the DX60 with the shortwave in it. So they're not super great today when you compare them to even cheap scanner radios. Beat the hell out of those in sensitivity. But they were kind of cool. They were cool to tune around and have fun with. And back then, everything was analog, so you could hear all sorts of things. So it's those were great little radios to have. And I need to. They haven't worked in a long time. I need to take them out for a spin and plug them in and use them. I think that'd be fun. Maybe an old. That would be fun. Maybe an old. Maybe an old, night of radios. Like I'll take out the Patrolmans, and I'll take out the realistic DX100, and have them side by side and tune around different signals. That could be fun. Yeah, when the marine bands. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, 2 megahertz. There's a lot of stuff to listen to here on with the Montreal port and all. It was crazy. There's a lot of activity back then. The marine bands on shortwave are not totally dead. They're very quiet, but if you tune them regularly, you can still hear some marine comms from time to time. And you even can hear the odd phone patch. That still can happen, but they are very quiet compared to the old days. That's for sure. That's for sure. RGDA Dakota says, my first radio was called an Astronaut 4 by Realistic. Larger radios were called the Patrolman. Robert Prosper, what is on the marine bands these days? Well, there's still some communications going on, but it's very, very small compared to today. Mostly in Asia and Africa, there will be some stuff. Here in North America, it's like these are pretty quiet bands. But if you tune around regularly, you will get some stuff from time to time. Yeah, Robert Prosper. I almost had one once, a Zenith Transoceanic. The guy at the flea market had one, and I could have had one for like $100 and I think it was something like $150. And I was a little strapped for cash. I could have purchased it, but I would have had to eat craft dinner for a while back then. But a couple of times it came close that I could have had one of those Zenith Transoceanics. Maybe one day I'll add it to my collection. Who knows? Who knows? So, hey guys, it's that time again. We are 3 hours in, and I am hungry. I'm gonna go and make myself those hamburgers, and there's chicken burgers. And so I want to tell everybody to stay safe, take care. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We'll be back next week with our regular shows, and hope that you enjoyed today's show of talking of all sorts of things, radios. Kind of fun to be here. So Bobby Burgess, I'm close to by the river and sometimes can catch marine activity. Cool. Robert Prosper, at what frequency does real shortwave capable of crossing oceans begin? That's not a clear cut question. You can't say starting at this megahertz range, it crosses the ocean, because technically it can cross the ocean even at very low frequencies. Technically, the whole spectrum, because shortwave is 3 to 30 megahertz. If you want to call it shortwave, it's 3 to 30 megahertz. Technically, all of that range is capable of crossing the oceans. All of that range. So you can hear 3 megahertz stuff from across the ocean. You can hear when it works and the ionosphere can support it, you can hear transatlantic, trans-Pacific signals at 29 megahertz. 3 to 30 megahertz, it pretty much is capable of crossing the oceans. Depends on the day or night pattern, of course. Mike, Anna 261, nice to have you here, and hope that you can join in with a little more time soon. So this is going to be this is a lot of fun to have everybody here, and take care, everyone. Stay safe, and love all of you. And we're going to go cook some chicken burgers, and then we're going to probably do some radio, continue listening to the radio, have fun. Probably outdoors because it's very beautiful outside. It's 26 degrees Celsius. So that's kind of nice outdoor radio weather, basically. So we'll be back Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 0 hours UTC. Hope you enjoyed the show today once again. Stay safe, my friend, and radio on.